I love working for Amazon, but it was still a job, and it was still taxing mentally.
What up? Boxtruckcouple.
Hey family, it's Christy from the Boxtruckcouple, and in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you my experience quitting my job. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and stop right here, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you know every time we post a video, because we got some really great content and we enjoy bringing it to you. So let's get into my story. I wanted to do a story time because one of the hardest things you could do to start your box truck business is to quit a job that you've had for years, give up an income that you're used to, give up benefits, etc. And so I just wanted to share my story and tell you, a little bit about my journey with Amazon, how I felt about the job, and why I left. I started with Amazon November 15, 2015. I had just lost a job that I kind of loved because I had never worked from home before. It was a work from home position and I was able to set my hours. Now in this job I did really, really well. I got a lot of hours. It went by rank. I had worked my way up to the top. I was pulling some great numbers and pulling in some great pay. They let me go and I couldn't understand why. Well, they later found out that it was a mistake, but by then I was long gone. So I was looking for a position, and the person who had got me the job that I lost called and said, hey, Amazon is hiring temporarily for their peak season. Maybe you could do that until you find a more permanent job. So I applied and I got the position. It was going to be customer service at Amazon, and it was really, really cool. But one thing that I learned on the first day of work was that if you did a good job, if you had good surveys from the customers, if you hit all of their metrics, you could be hired permanently. And so I just knew, hey, I've done this type of work before. I'm going to get this job permanent. And I started working really, really hard. I don't have a lot of pictures of my setup from the work from home, but I will share, some of the pictures that I do have. I was able to create an office space that was really comfortable for me. And I was able to work from home. I actually worked in customer service through the peak season, and I really thought in January that they were going to offer me the full-time position. Well, January came and went, and I found out that one of the things that I needed to work on was empathy. I was a policy person. I was by the book. I did my job, but I wasn't really good at, oh, I'm so sorry that your tracking shows that it was delivered to your house, but you say you never got it. So let me go ahead and send you a new MacBook because we want you to be satisfied. I just wasn't really good with that, especially when things didn't click for me. And I know it wasn't my stuff, but game recognized game. I knew in certain situations that they weren't being completely truthful, and I wasn't always the best at showing empathy. But I worked on it, and by March, I was offered a full-time position. So from March till May, I continued to work in customer service. In May of 2016, I was offered a position in the wish list and registry department. That's for like baby wish lists, baby registries, bridal registries, people's wish lists and stuff. So I was offered a position over there. I trained the last week in April, the first week in June. I started officially, and then Friday of that first week, Friday of that first week, I was offered a position in the recruiting department. And I'm like, I didn't even apply to the recruiting department. Well, my supervisor saw something in me that I didn't know she saw, and she recommended me to the manager over there. And they were looking for a certain amount of associates to work temporarily through the peak season that was coming up. Well, peak in recruiting started in like August or something, so they wanted enough time, June and July, to get us trained so we would be ready to start recruiting people to work during peak. And so I went over to that department, to the recruiting department, and I really loved it. I did well over there, so well that at the end of their peak season, which was getting ready for Amazon's main peak, which is like October through December, the manager had a meeting with me and said, hey, we just don't have any permanent positions in this department. We really only ramp up for peak, but I think that you're great and I hate to see your talents wasted going back to customer service when we can use you somewhere else. He said, I have a buddy that works in the HR department and they are hiring temporarily for their peak season. So I said, cool, I'd love to do it. So he gave me the information. I applied, I interviewed, I got the position. Amazon's peak season in HR started about September, October, and we worked that through December. So recruiting, you're bringing people in to work for customer service. This was the virtual customer service for Amazon. This wasn't the facilities or anything like that. It was all work from home. So recruiting brought people in to work temporarily through the peak season, and then while you're in the position, HR helps you with payroll, helps you with policy changes, etc. Did really well over there. January, February, our manager said, you know, it was 10 of us that were working temporarily, and there were only 3 positions for permanent. There were 3 permanent people already, and they had 3 positions that they were hiring for. And so I interviewed, and there were some people more qualified, had more education, and more, I felt, were more qualified. But I was one of the people that got the position, and a lot of it had to do with my personality. From what I understand, a lot of it had to do with my personality, because it takes a specific type of person to be able to deal with other personalities and help people think outside of the box in different situations. So they saw enough in me that I was able to get that position. So I'm telling you all this to show you that my journey through Amazon continued to take me to different levels, which was really good for me. I loved it. I enjoyed it. I always enjoy a challenge and learning new things. I did well in that position for 5 years. But for 5 years, once I got into the HR generalist position, I never got promoted. I did the job, but I never got the title or the pay. As a matter of fact, I reached the cap of my position, and for 2 years I didn't qualify for a raise because I wasn't promoted. I was interviewed, but it was always somebody brought in that was either already doing the job at another facility or whatever. And so I was getting burnt out and I was getting frustrated, and I was talking to my manager, and she was telling me how in an actual physical site, you know, it's not about did you interview well enough or any of that. It's if you're doing the job for X amount of time, you automatically are promoted to the next position. So I was like, yeah, I really want to go to a work from home, which sounded crazy to a lot of people. But after you've been working from home for 5, 6, 10 years, like, you really do get burnt out. You need a separation of work and home. You need to go clock in, do your job, clock out, and go home. And that's what I needed to do. So I got the position at a facility near me, and I started working there. And it was so cool because when I first started, all managers have to go through the training but not even the training that a regular employee would go through. We had to be trained in every position in the site. So I was trained in picking, in stowing, in packing, in shipping. I even learned how to drive an order picker. It was so cool. So once I did that full week of training in every department, I then started my HR training. Another thing that's cool about not working from home and actually working in a facility is that you get badges, you get vests, and people know who you are. So the vest for just training on the floor or regular employees just had a plain yellow vest. This was my first vest at Amazon. This is an HR vest. As you can see, HR colors. Purple, that was my name badge. It says Christy, my site, which was BOC-3 and Macon, and my position, which is HRA. And then the back says Human Resources, and I put my name on it so people knew who I was when I walked through the building and they could call me if they needed me. Also, when you work for Amazon and if you're a temporary employee, your badge is blue, but it has a white face. But when you're a full-time employee of Amazon, your badge is blue. So this was my first bag. The face on it was actually when I first started working for Amazon from home. They just put my old face on this badge, but this is the badge that they gave me when I actually went to the facility to work. And this is the real live vest that I wore. And so I started working from home in 2020. I believe it was June of 2020. It was great to actually be around people. It was great to actually go to a job, and then when you clock out, the job is done. I really enjoyed it, but I quickly learned that I wasn't just burnt out from working from home. I was burnt out from doing HR stuff. HR stuff is so time consuming. It works on you physically, it works on you mentally, and I probably just needed a break, and I could have kept going. Because the week that I went on the cruise, it really helped me when I came back to work. Maybe I just needed a break or a position change. And so when I figured that out, I started looking around the facility, trying to decide what I wanted to do. And it took me a while, but I had come full circle. It took me a year to even move away from working from home, even though I knew it was time. And then the whole time I was working at the facility in this position, I kept saying, I need to do something else. I need to do something else. And so I started watching the other positions and how people felt about them, what their job titles were, etc. And I landed on the transportation department because I always wanted to drive a big truck. My dad drove a big truck. I just thought it was cool. Growing up, I was in a big truck and I always wanted to do it. So I took off my Human Resources vest. I took that vest off. If you've ever worked for Amazon, you know that the TOM team or the transportation team had different vests. So this is the old TOM team vest. This is the old TOM team vest, right? I love this one. For some reason, I just love it. It said NAFC, North American Transportation Team. Then we got these plain vests. Not so much, but they were cool. that just said transportation. And then right before I left, oh, and I forgot to show you my badge too. Once they realized how much tenure I had, come to find out, if you've been there 5 years, your badge, you get an orange stripe. If you've been there 10 years, you get a purple stripe. If you've been there 15, you get a red stripe, etc. So I've been working for Amazon. This is my, if you work for Amazon, you know, there's a zoo key that goes in here that you put inside of your computer to access Amazon stuff. That's what this is. I turned into zoo key but didn't turn in the case. This is my actual badge that I had when I left. As you can see, the picture changed. I'm actually wearing a purple vest, human resources, and I've got the orange stripe on the outer perimeter that shows that I worked for Amazon more than 5 years. If you've also worked with Amazon, you probably have one of these. They do stretches. They do stretches every day to make sure you're okay. And then that is the badge, not in the case, so you can really see the orange stripe. So this was the last vest that I had on the Tom team. North American Transportation Tom, and it is red. Those are all of the faces that I wore at Amazon. I really enjoyed working for Amazon. Moving to the Tom team was great for me. My husband left his job and came to work in the same department, and we enjoyed it. However, they had us working separate shifts, so I worked a day shift. I got off 10:30 at night. He clocked in at 11, so we didn't even get to spend time together between shifts. He got off at 5 or 5:30 the next morning, and because it took him 2 hours to get home, he was normally passing me on Highway 75 as I was going back to work. So we both started talking to truckers, not even at the same time, but we were just finding out little stuff about the truckers that were coming in to pick up Amazon product. And we quickly learned that, hey, they're doing something that we could do. We could work for ourselves. And it was really me more so than him. But I was so interested that I started doing all the paperwork. I kept telling my husband, I think this is what we should do. I think this is what we should do. And I wasn't even waiting on a response. I was just doing all of the things that we needed to do to establish our business. Once we established our business, it was at the right time. I was ready. And my husband, you know, going through his own things mentally, he was ready too. So when everything was put in place, we were both ready at the right time. Now, I love working for Amazon. I love the pay. I loved the benefits. I loved, building up my 401k. I loved everything about my position that benefited us. You know what I mean? Like I said, the pay, the benefits, the insurance, all of that stuff was amazing. And honestly, it was the best job that I've ever had in my life. But it was still a job, and it was still taxing mentally, and it was just time for a change. We were in the middle of the pandemic. I had gotten COVID in the HR department, and I was treated fairly. Like, as soon as they said you have to, before I even got my test results, and the doctor said you're going to have to quarantine, we're going to have to test you. Amazon put me on a 2-week leave with pay. No problem. We got bonus after bonus after bonus during the pandemic. Every year you could depend on a bonus. Every year you could depend on a raise. Like, Amazon was a good employee. I would recommend anybody to go work for Amazon. There were some pros and some cons. But overall, as far as employees go, I really enjoyed working for them. But it was just time, you guys. It was, and you know when it's time. We just knew that it was time. You know, it was time to stop answering to other people. It was time to stop getting rolled up. It was time to just work for ourselves and be our own boss and make our own decisions. It was always in us. We just never had the nerve to do it. And we finally realized that it was time. We just stepped out on faith. Through every step of the process, prayers were involved. Through leaving our positions, prayers were involved. We just knew that God would bless our steps. Because our main reason was we wanted to do more in our ministry and more in serving our God, Jehovah. So we knew as long as we continued to put Him first, He would bless our efforts. And bless our efforts, He did. We don't have any regrets. My husband talked about it in the last video. We don't have any regrets for becoming our own bosses. Because ultimately, God is our boss. And He has really blessed our efforts. So that's my journey. That's my journey with Amazon. Those are all the things that I did while I was in the positions that I held with them, all the jobs that I held rather, while I was with Amazon. I could have continued to grow and elevate and go to the next position and learn, and I could have continued on that path. I could have still been there. They didn't let me go. I walked away. And I even had an old supervisor call me and say, "You don't work for Amazon anymore?" And I was like, "No, why?" "I just pulled you up because I wanted to bring you to my department." She was going to promote me to a position in her department, which would have probably doubled my salary. So I'd have been making nice six-figure income. I would have been able to travel, and I would have been managing several regions. And all I had to do was accept her offer. But I was already gone. And honestly, if I wanted it, they would have brought me back. But we really want to work for ourselves. And it's been a really great journey. No turning back now. So if you're thinking about quitting your job, going to work for yourself, my advice to you is take the appropriate steps to make sure you're doing it right. Connect with somebody that's already been through the journey to help you along the way. And keep everything you do in prayer. Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll see you in the next one.
What up? Boxtruck, couple, God first, family second, then the money. God first, family second, then the money. Yeah.